think you have like this really deep need to be needed, right?
Or to not feel useless.
Yeah, to not feel useless. So your default mode is to give and sacrifice in order to feel like you deserve love.
Yes. Right, and admitting I don't know.
Yeah, like it's like a failing.
Yeah.
In that giving.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We are off to the beach. It's about 8:20 this morning. Welcome to our channel where we are focusing more on not people pleasing, but taking care of our own needs first so that we could be better when we do need to show up for other people and everything that life calls us to. One of my happy places these days has been going to the ocean, because ever since like mid-second trimester, I developed pregnancy carpal tunnel, and it's a sad thing for me because I wake up in the morning and my hands are really swollen, they're numb, they're tingly, and it's sad for me because like I can't even grip a pen, and I have such a hard time like writing, so I can't journal first thing in the morning like I used to. And it's really just given me perspective on not to take it for granted, being able to pick up a pen and write for as long as I want. So the last 2 times we went into the ocean, like my symptoms just disappeared. And like I don't feel the weight of my belly. I'm having back pain as well. So I just feel like really free and light in there.
Yeah.
Something we've been really looking forward to.
I think it's extra hard for you because you've kind of gotten into this new journaling thing where you're buying supplies, you're watercoloring every day, and so the excitement is building, but then the difficulty
I can't get it out.
Rising.
Yeah.
Well, crazy.
Actually, I'm really thankful for watercoloring because that I can do as long as I'm not doing any detailed work. So in the morning, because I can't write, I'll just take like my fattest watercolor brush and I'll just play around with color. So that's been a relief for me. I've been really thankful for that.
Yeah, so we're going to do that. We're going to hang out at the beach. It's about 5 minutes away. In fact, that whole thing was the drive.
We're here.
We're going to talk about an issue.
A common topic.
Yeah, a pattern that we have in terms of our fights.
Yeah.
And it has to do with her Enneagram Type 2 personality and how generally she sort of filters things by sort of a people-pleasing kind of a mindset. And so sometimes when she hears certain things from me, she actually interprets it differently. And we kind of
rediscovered it like 2 days ago.
Yeah,
we were like talking about an incident we had last summer.
Yeah.
And how this was like the perfect example of how I tend to immediately want to cater to the other person and bypass something that I might want in the same moment. But we'll go into detail about that.
Yeah, so stick around. It's an interesting one.
Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane.
So it's a beautiful, peaceful morning here. The swim team was out and about, it looked like, but I think they're done. So, about our discussion.
Yeah. Basically, we were kind of walking through this fight that we had last year. And it was when you were going off to San Francisco for your bachelor party, right? Before my best week ever, right? Without Brandon. And one of the last things we did together was to go to like a nearby shopping area. And he wanted to get souvenirs, cookies for his family. And as soon as we pulled into the parking lot, you asked me like, hey, do you want to go in with me?
Yeah.
Right? So the option was for me to go in with him or to just sit in the car because it shouldn't take that long, right? To buy a box of cookies.
Yeah.
And, given like our rhythm, I usually find that like when Brandon wants to purchase something, he likes my opinion, whether it's clothes or gifts or whatever. So this is my thought process that he didn't hear any of, right? So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, he's probably going to want my opinion, picking out the perfect gift set. And if I don't go into the store with him, he's either going to call me or like he might want to FaceTime or something. So Brandon doesn't hear any of what's going on in my head. And instead of answering his question, do you want to go in with me? Like yes or no, my response to him was, do you want me to go in with you? Or do you need me to go in with you? And you got frustrated with me in that moment
Yeah.
because you were like, you didn't answer my question.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, but I just went through this whole thing and I came to what I thought was the best answer. But when I peeled it back, I realized, like, no, I just wanted to sit in the car because we had a long drive to the airport and then I was going to drive back. And again, none of this was communicated. And when he got frustrated with me that I didn't answer his question, I got frustrated because in that moment, it was like, oh my gosh, I am trying to be helpful here and come to the best conclusion given like the situation.
Yeah.
We just thought that was like such a perfect example because since then, I mean, so many of our miscommunication has been around you asking me something and me thinking that I'm answering you. But what we realized is that a lot of times Brandon asks me a question and I totally bypass what it is that I want. And I'm already like emotionally in Brandon's lap about how I can serve him or how I can be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just, as you're explaining that, I'm realizing other circumstances where that ends up happening.
Totally. And then when he's like, babe, you're not answering my question, which is true.
Yeah.
Like technically I'm not.
Yeah.
I get so hurt because I thought I was doing this loving thing of like thinking of all these other steps to consider my answer, right?
Yeah.
That really has come up a lot in a lot of our arguments. So we've been kind of talking and brainstorming like how we can get around this or how I can be better about speaking up and like addressing the answer first
Yep.
and then continuing on with the dialogue.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what's interesting is I thought these questions were mostly about me asking your preference. Like, hey, what do you want to eat?
Yes.
Hey, would you like this? Are you up for this?
Yeah.
But as you're explaining this, I'm realizing it also applies to circumstances where, like, say, for example, you had to go find the answer to something, like Google something.
No, I have the perfect example.
Oh, you have the example? Oh,
I have
thank
the
God.
perfect
I was
example.
struggling
Yeah.
hard.
So there is this restaurant that we really like to eat here. Actually, every Sundays when we would come to the beach, like Saturday was our beach day.
Yeah.
Our little tradition has been to go. It's called 808 Deli, and they make really good sandwiches and paninis
right.
and salads.
Yeah.
And if you follow their Instagram account, every day they have a special deal. So like what would normally be like a $13 sandwich, when they have their special deals, it's $5. And these deals change every single day. So this one day we're getting ready to go to the beach. I had screenshotted the salad deal of the day because Brandon's on a keto diet. He's not eating sandwiches and I didn't know what kind of salad he was in the mood for. So I screenshotted the salad and then I texted him the photo. And we're getting ready to go to the beach and then you go, hey, do you know what today's deal is? And I didn't know the name of the salad. And instead of saying, no, I don't know, I said, hey, I texted it to you. Because like I went through the work of screenshotting it and texting it to him so that he could check his phone and like see like, do I want this or not? So again, I'm doing all these extra things because I feel like it'll give you the best possible answer that I can provide for you. And in that moment, you're like, you're not answering my question again.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you know, you follow them on Instagram too. I didn't have to screenshot and do all of that. So I got upset because you got upset at me.
Yeah.
And this happens so frequently.
Yeah.
But then when we peeled it back, I did realize where Brandon's frustrations are as well, because I could just simply be like, no, I don't know, but I texted you a picture. It's that no, I don't know part
Yeah. And
that I don't include.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it's because, and this is where we can get into a little bit of analysis on the whole scenario, right? Where, as a type 2, or maybe it's also a heart triad of the Enneagram, or someone that's highly agreeable in your circumstance, according to the Big Five, I think you have like this really deep need to be needed, right?
Or to not feel useless.
Yeah, to not feel useless. So your default mode is to give and sacrifice in order to feel like you deserve love.
Yes. Right, and admitting I don't know.
Yeah, like it's like a failing.
Yeah.
In that giving, or in sharing what you want, you feel like you're being selfish and you're not giving to the other person, right? And I think what we discovered was it's kind of interesting that this filter is that filter of I want to be helpful, I want to give, I want to make sure this person feels comfortable and not excluded and all that kind of stuff. But
it doesn't even register to me that in that moment, this person just wants to know what I want in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just the answer. Like and there's nothing against you.
Right, right.
Because like the example of the we call it the Honolulu cookie fight, because that's what I was going to get is Honolulu cookies.
Honolulu cookies.
You know, something Hawaii branded. Good cookies. So in that moment, I was asking because I know you like to run errands with me, right? You like to accompany me on things. So you were thinking of me, but in that moment, I couldn't care less. I was just going to pick some cookies because anything would have done. And I just wanted to know, oh, well, I don't want to steal Jenn's joy in this moment if she wanted to do another ridiculous, errand, joyful, excuse me, oh, the wave was loud. I didn't want to steal that from Jenn if that was something that you really wanted to do, because sometimes you do like to do that with me.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get a quick temperature test of, hey, how are you feeling? And instead of getting any of that, you're like, if you want to, if you want me to.
If you want me to.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't even think about the fact that I wasn't even considering that quality time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's because, you know, you're putting me in front of your own needs, right? Or you're deathly afraid of failing at being the source of fulfilling that need. And I think it's kind of this, maybe the both sides of that same coin. And what we're learning how to do is to find ways where Jenn can take that moment, take that beat to
take a pause and then be
to
like,
acknowledge her own needs.
what do I want?
Yeah, or fears even in that moment.
Yeah.
And address that first before moving on to how she can help if she's feeling up to it.
Right. And I have this unspoken obligation that whenever anyone asks anything of me, it means that they need something from me.
Yeah.
Right. But in that moment, it's like, energetically checking, is this even mine for me to do? And do I want to do it?
Yeah.
And it's okay if I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I could have just, because in my mind, like I said, I didn't want to go in. And it felt wrong. Like, how could I not help you? Like, pick out these cookies for your family. I know you're excited to see your family, and if you pick out the wrong set of cookies...
yeah. Seriously, God forbid.
God forbid, yeah. I know, it's so silly.
Or just failing me because I need you in that moment to pick out and make my
Right.
decisions in these things that I've trusted you with, you know.
Yeah.
It's sort of a spoken and unspoken responsibility almost, right? Okay, so the next thing we're going to explore is maybe some ideas on how we can overcome this thing, where Jenn can, like we said, take a beat, acknowledge her own temperature and fears, and speak to those first before moving on and trying to be helpful, or not at all if she finds that that's
Not what
not
I want to do.
appropriate or what she wants
Yeah.
to do. So we're going to enjoy the beach now, and we'll see you in a bit.
Startled our eyes, we let go of disguise. And now there's something in the air, and a sparkly shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes. Undercover, agents of the other. Beyond gravel, beyond road. Hand in hand, building castles.
To summarize a little bit, what we realized is that Jenn and her type 2-ness of wanting to really take care of other people's needs as a way of sort of earning that love, when she's confronted with these two types of questions, one which is when someone asks, or when I ask what her preference is, she tends to throw it back on me. Or when she doesn't have the answer, she feels that fear of failure and doesn't necessarily address that and goes to all the ways in which she's helped. And I think that's the summary of how she reflexively answers and processes these questions. And I think for me, the biggest lesson in all this is that even though before as we talked about it, we may have known the right answer, the coolest part is that because we know that that filter has a lot to do with her desire to be loved and the desire to love, and it really gives me a sense of grace to be able to look at this in a brand new light, and also start to work on myself to help support her.
Yeah, and when we were kind of dissecting the situation with how it tends to happen when he does ask me a question in which I don't have a preference or I don't know the answer, you get frustrated, and your responses in the past have been, you're not answering my question. And with that response, I understand where your frustration is coming from, because as an Enneagram Type 1, your passion is anger. So you feel anger because I'm not hearing you.
And because I have this weird ideal thing where if it's not according to the absolute ideal, then I get mad because it needs to be perfect for everything to work perfectly.
Right. So I didn't answer him perfectly, which pisses him off. And then when he responds to me that way, it triggers my passion as an Enneagram Type 2, which is pride. And at that point, because I'm feeling like I need to protect myself, there's no room for me to be vulnerable and be like, oh, actually, I don't know. It's more like I got to put my foot down and, stand up for myself and go into self-preservation mode. And then it's like this really tough standoff that we have, and it doesn't get better.
So we've both got some things to work on, and what I really think is so cool and I'm so grateful for is that marriage is like this really awesome training ground, or this committed, supportive environment where we're learning how to reflect back some of these things that we've sort of picked up consciously and unconsciously that are probably bad habits that we need to break and then rework through. And that was the tricky thing about our conversations throughout this whole day, is like, well, what's the approach? What's the 1, 2, 3 that we can give everyone? And there's probably techniques that can help you to do it on your own. I would imagine that it's very hard, if not impossible. Yeah, so it's really cool to have that environment, I think.
Yeah. And when you said committed support, in that already, I feel what I'm hearing is like, hey, you're worth fighting for, and I'm going to stick with you, and it's not going to be easy, and it's going to be tough, and we're probably going to mess up and end up in this standoff, thing again, but I'm not giving up on you. And I think ultimately, when I think about it as well, I would never want you to feel like I don't hear you, because I love you. And I would never want my good intentions to burden you, because that's terrible. And so if we continue down this habit without breaking it, what's going to happen is it's just going to further disconnect us, and we're not going to grow in our intimacy or like understanding of each other. So yeah, it's definitely, I'm so happy that we're aware of this now, and what the good consequences are as we move towards fixing this, right? Because it could be something easily where it's like, oh yeah, that thing you do, it's really annoying, and then you just let it be, and we fight every time it comes up without doing anything about it. So yeah, I love this new perspective that we have.
Yeah. So there's a couple things we've decided to try for ourselves. For me, if you don't mind me starting first. So this is a technique I actually learned from Never Split the Difference, which Jenn always jokes about as always splitting the difference.
Oh, you mean that book? Always Split the Difference?
Always Split It?
Yeah.
And it's a book by a former FBI hostage negotiator, one of the best in the world apparently. And what's really great is in the beginning of the book, he teaches you about listening techniques. Regardless of whether you believe what the other person's saying, these are great techniques to just help the other person feel like they're heard. And that's something that I'm working on, because I feel like it'll be something that will help me in general. But one of them is summarizing with it feels like, or it seems like, has not answered my question, and saying, you didn't answer my question.
You're not answering my question, yeah.
What I'd like to try to do is respond with hey, it seems like maybe the question that you misheard my question. I feel like that would be way less harsh and give Jenn the room to do what she needs to do.
Yeah, and for me, what I'm committed to trying is, when asked a question where I don't have a preference, what I'd like to do is to respond to you by thanking you for considering my needs, because that's something that I often don't do for myself, just reflexively, because I'm usually focused on other people around me. So to just give myself that pause to say, hey, thanks for asking, but I actually don't have a preference. Or if I do, I can state it after the fact, right? So I love that little pause by thanking you genuinely for something that you did out of your care for me. And then if you ask me a question where I don't know the answer, what I want to do is to reflect the question back to you. So again, with the 808 deli example that we shared earlier in the video, if you were to ask me, hey, do you know what today's special is? I can take that moment to think, do I know what today's special is? No, I don't. And that would be the end of answering your question. But if I had the energy and the desire to be more helpful, I can say, hey, no, I don't know, but it's posted on their Instagram. You can check it out. Or would you like me to pull it up for you? But it doesn't mean I have to, like I'm obligated to go and do that extra step, because I think that's just my natural inkling to want to go there and like get the answers for you and save you from the trouble of doing it yourself. But anyway, very interesting learnings that we've really dissected this one.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Our question to you is, does this issue resonate with you at all?
Yes, I'm so curious.
Yeah. And if it does and you've been through this, what have you tried that's helped? So please leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell.
Yeah, and if what we're talking about resonates with you and you want to hear more, make sure you subscribe to our Above the Waves newsletter. We'll have the link down below so that we can learn to take care of ourselves and take care of our needs first so that we could show up more powerfully in the world. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.